Welcome back to another episode of Brotherhood Blitz. I'm your host, D. Wop, here with my brother and co-host 49K.
Hello, hello. It's a nice night to talk about some VGL action, and as we're midway through the season, which is going to be a pretty good episode.
Pretty good episode to say the least, Colton. We got a wild one. It's gonna be a wild episode to talk about this past week and the uh, the upsets we had, and just wow, just buckle up and stay tuned for this one.
Yeah, definitely stay tuned as we got a lot to talk about as we'll get into our first talking point.
Yeah, we'll jump right into it. Last week, on I think it was Tuesday, you had first game of week four. Already week four. Wow. Um, you got LSU versus Arkansas, and what we thought was going to be a close game, and it didn't disappoint.
Definitely a close game in which kind of went back and forth for a lot of it, with LSU coming and back and ended up snagging the win in a very close 34 to 31 victory. In which LSU improves to 2-2, while Arkansas falls to 1-3 on the season.
Yeah, and I will say that 1-3, Arkansas is definitely not, um, as bad as that record seems. They've played some decent teams and played them games very close to the end.
Arkansas actually has the fourth, tied for third highest strength of schedule in the league currently. So, I mean, I think they're a lot better than they are at 1-3 than, obviously what the record shows. But I do think that they're gonna make a push, get some things figured out as they've lost some very close games the last 3 weeks. Lost to UNC by 4, Texas by 7 in OT, and then barely lost to LSU by 3. So you got to look at it a little bit more that maybe they're just trying to figure things out. But as we're getting mid-season, it ain't much more time to get stuff figured out.
Yeah, you ain't lying. As we enter week five in a 9 week regular season, this is when teams need to lock in and chase those playoff spots for sure.
As we get later into the season, it's where wins start to become more must wins for a lot of those teams trying to fight in for positioning inside the bracket, trying to get in the playoffs. So, and a lot of these teams are like on the outside in, even that are struggling a little bit with like one win or even no wins. There's still time to string some wins together and get into the playoffs.
Yeah, for sure. And a lot of those teams that are out of the bracket as of now definitely have a chance. We got some weeks coming up. If they figure some things out, they can definitely surprise some people for sure, especially after this week and the upsets we just saw.
I definitely agree. And we'll get into the second game on that Tuesday slate where number one Texas beats number 12 East Carolina 35 to 25. Kind of give me your thoughts on how that game looked.
Yeah, it looked definitely not like that scoreboard shows. Texas went up, pretty early. It started to look out it was going to be a pretty big win. And then, towards the end of the game, East Carolina, they have some heart. They came out in the late third, early fourth quarter and started to string some drives together and put up some points. Made that game closer than it was.
Yeah, no, Texas, I'm not going to speak too much on it as both of us are Texas coaches. ECU, I will give y'all credit. Y'all made that game tough and where I started to kind of slip to the edge of my seat and thought, man, maybe they're about to come back and snag a win from out underneath us.
Yeah, definitely started to look like the momentum changed and it was all ECU there towards the end.
Yeah, we stepped off the gas a little bit come that second half after being up a decent bit, and then ECU kind of took advantage of that and tried to climb back in just a little too late.
For sure. And next game during the week, we had an upset with number 6 North Carolina, uh, dropping to Rutgers, who I didn't have winning at all. I'm gonna be honest, but hey, props to Rutgers, man. They came out, you know, they game planned flawlessly and outcoached North Carolina, who has some very good coaches over there, and yeah, that game, man, it looked it it looked like it was going to OT, and out of nowhere, you know, a hail mary. Who would have thought? Comes down with it in the end zone, and Rutgers pulls that one off 38-31.
Yeah, that was a quite a wild upset, and especially the way and in the fashion that it happened. You don't see very often. The deep bomb down the left sideline to I believe it's Jameson's sweet feet and caught it for the touchdown as time expires. You don't see that very often, but it also goes to show you just how competitive this league is, and then anything can happen on any given day.
Oh, for sure. And you really can't underestimate any of these teams. Um, and yeah, what a ending to that game, and winning in that fashion to a very good team of North Carolina is a very good statement in this league, and like you said, how competitive this league is.
And we'll get into the next game, where number 10 Michigan beats number 16 Missouri 37 to 27, in which was a chance for Missouri to hopefully, try and get their first win on the season, but Michigan, with their dreaded passing attack, was able to get a 10-point victory and hopes to call their way back into playoff spot.
Yeah, this game, I had Michigan winning, but uh, hey, props to Missouri. They fought and they looked good doing it. Like we said earlier, if they lock in, find some things that work, as they did in that game, and they scored 27 points. But yeah, Michigan scoring 37. It's very hard to lose a game when you score 37 points.
Yeah, I don't think Mizzou's offense is necessarily that big of a weakness for that team. I think the defense is just young and needs to, get better as season goes on and try and figure some things out.
Yeah, of course they're young, and Mizzou coming in to the league this season, they need to figure some things out, and it'll happen over time. And excited to see what happens the rest of the season for them and the seasons to come. Next game of week 4 in the VGL, we had Miami and Maryland, and I just want to your opinion on what you thought of that first half and how close it was, and then that second half, Miami just came out, gas pedal to the floor and didn't look back.
Yeah, Maryland got off to a decently quick start, getting off to I think it was
I think it was 13-3.
I believe it was yeah, it was 13-3, and then Miami proceeded to score 40 straight points.
Yeah, wild. That you know, Miami changing playbooks. I believe after week 2, I want to say, against.
I don't
Uh,
remember I don't remember when they switched, but I knew they did switch playbooks to what they're currently in. They have looked dominant the last 2 weeks.
Oh, for sure. And they're trying to earn that number one spot back and stringing the rest of the season with wins, and they're making it look pretty and easy.
Yeah, it is a pretty this I would say this win's a lot better than what they had last week against Bama. But now that Bama beat FAU, maybe that win looks a little bit better. Who knows? But beating an undefeated, one of the last three undefeated teams left in the league, 40-13. You could say that's a pretty good win, but on paper, Miami outclassed and outmatched Maryland.
Moving on to the next game, had Virginia Tech topping Georgia 48-31. What'd you think of that game?
48-34. But no, that game looked like Georgia had it. Not gonna lie, they were up at half, and then Virginia Tech, being that second half team, came back and got a pretty good win against a team I'm actually very high on currently still in Georgia.
Yeah, excuse me. It was like you said, 48-34, not 31. Um, but yeah, that game was a good one to watch. And like you said, yeah, Georgia, they came out swinging, and it really looked like they were gonna top Virginia Tech until the end.
On to the next game is number 3 Hawaii beating number 13 Louisville 33-28, in which was a pretty close game until kind of Hawaii got off to a pretty big lead, and then Louisville kind of clawed back towards the end in the final like 5 minutes of the game.
Yeah, for sure. And like I said during that game, with moderate wind, that wind was definitely moderating, and yeah, it that game didn't disappoint, and it looked like Louisville was gonna, sneak out with a win. And I know for sure Gunn was perked up on his seat, uh, watching that game.
Yeah, and that game, Dover went off.
Yeah, when it's moderate wind, you gotta have that ground game going, and they definitely did.
Agreed. Get on to the next game.
Next game we have a wild one, to say the least, as we had our biggest upset of the season, I would say, as number 5 Florida Atlantic losing to number 15 Alabama, and it wasn't even close.
No, the game was not close at all, and not for certain, but I'd like to say this is probably one of the bigger upsets in league history, if not the biggest, without going back and looking through all the seasons. Um, we'll just say obviously it's the biggest upset this season so far, unless I mean Rutgers, North Carolina is like right there.
Yeah, the Rutgers one in North Carolina is definitely right there with that Florida Atlantic and Alabama game. But at least that game was a lot closer, and Alabama Alabama's game, it wasn't even close. They came out hungry and just, I would say, starving, really, scoring 38 points on Florida Atlantic and only allowing 17.
And getting their first win on the season, mind you, at that. And for Atlantic, trying to they gotta look into going into next week with probably some vengeance and some blood in their mouth.
Oh yeah, for sure. Especially, like we said earlier, it's midweek. You gotta really start, stringing together wins, and you can't really afford losses, especially like that.
And while we're in the talks of this week, why don't we get into the player of the week?
Yeah, we'll do players of the week, um, or actually, let's do game of the week first. Um,
I'm jumping ahead a little bit.
You goober. All right. So our game of the week. Um, I'm going to say my game of the week was at. Well, really, there's two. I mean, you could really, um, you know, fight for two of these games to be game of the week. But I think I'm gonna have to go with that LSU Arkansas game, opening the opening game of week 4.
I'm actually going to go with the Rutgers North Carolina game.
Yep, and that was the other team I was talking about.
Yeah, I think that game and just the way and the fashion that it ended was more gut-wrenching and the excitement that some, members of Rutgers had and overall that game the dessert that's my game of the week.
That's a very good pick for game of the week for sure. And then we will go into our players of the week, and we're going to be doing it a little bit different than we have in the previous episodes, as everything is now on the website thanks to Vex. Shout out Vex. Um, as player of the week is all through your locker now. If you didn't know that and you're listening, now you do. Just make sure you'll see it in your locker. You go in your locker, player of the week, vote, and you'll read through them as we're about to read through them here, and you'll vote on who you think should win. And without further ado, I will name off the offensive players of the week on the ballot. So congratulations to Remy Melanishin, QB of Texas, scoring 47.1 fantasy points, 21 for 32 with 327 yards in the air for an average of 10.2 and 3 touchdowns. Ran 16 times for 20 yards with a 1.3 average and 2 touchdowns. And then we have Ryan Winley, QB of North Carolina, scoring 43.7 fantasy points, throwing 39 for 50 for 358 yards with an average of 7.2 and 2 touchdowns, and 10 attempts on the ground for 49 yards with an average of 4.9 and 2 touchdowns. Then we have J.J. Brady, QB of Michigan, scoring 42.2 fantasy points, went 32 for 40, 486 yards in the air with an average of 12.2 and 3 touchdowns. We have Kelby Big Soldier, I believe.
Correct.
That's okay. Thank you. 22 attempts for 176 yards with an average of 8, 2 touchdowns, and 3 receptions for 16 yards and an average of 5.3. Then we have Yuri Satoshi, halfback of East Carolina, scoring 36 fantasy points. And I believe I skipped over Kelby's fantasy points. He scored 39.7 fantasy points. And then Yuri Satoshi scoring 36 fantasy points, went 24 for 116 on the ground for an average of 4.8 with 1 touchdown and 8 receptions for 44 yards with an average of 5.5. Next, we have Fafa Malamalafufu, wide receiver of LSU, scoring 32.4 fantasy points with 12 receptions for 137 yards with an average of 11.4 and a touchdown. And we have Vincent Laldis, halfback of Georgia, scoring 32 fantasy points, 20 attempts, 69 yards with an average of 3.5, and 6 receptions for 21 yards with an average of 3.5 and 2 touchdowns in the air. Then we have Damon Williams III, wide receiver for Michigan, scoring 30.2 fantasy points with 6 receptions, 122 yards, 20.3 average, and 2 touchdowns. Then we have Cole Penhagen, wide receiver of North Carolina, scoring 28.9 fantasy points with 14 receptions for 147 yards with an average of 10.5. And as a bonus, had 1 pancake. Then we had Richard Satchel, tight end of Virginia Tech, scoring 26.4 fantasy points and also had 8 receptions for 111 yards with an average of 13.9 and a touchdown, as well as one pancake.
And going into the defense player of the week players on the ballot, we have Sam Andrews, outside linebacker of Texas, getting 20 fantasy points, which is tied for the most, with 10 tackles and 3 sacks. And he had some TFLs on there, but I get into the others, Vex, if you're watching and listening, if we can get TFLs on where their player card is, so we know we have a little bit more stats to go off of than, let's say, a linebacker with just tackles, but he had more than that. Going into the next player, Ace Haskins, middle linebacker of Alabama, getting 20 fantasy points with 16 tackles. And you got R.K. Braun, defensive tackle of Alabama, getting 19 fantasy points with 5 tackles, 1 sack, 1 forced fumble, and recovery, and bringing that one back for a touchdown. You got Leland Everett, D end of Miami, getting 19 fantasy points with 6 tackles, 4 sacks, excuse me. You got Silas Venture, outside linebacker of Texas, with 17 fantasy points, getting 12 tackles and some TFLs to go along with it. You got Sakalata, DN of Florida Atlantic, getting 17 fantasy points with 6 tackles and 3 sacks. You got Vince Yost, defensive tackle of Hawaii, getting 17 fantasy points with 9 tackles and 2 sacks. You got Six Stitch, a middle linebacker from Miami, getting 17 fantasy points with 14 tackles and a forced fumble. You got AJ Smith, free safety in Missouri, getting 17 fantasy points with 12 tackles, 1 interception, and a forced fumble. And you got Demetrius Reese Jr., DN of Virginia Tech, getting 16 fantasy points with 4 tackles, a sack, a fumble recovery, and bringing that one back for a touchdown.
Yeah, and now we have our special teams players of the week. We have Bobby Johnson, free safety of Georgia, with 2 fantasy points for 8 kick returns for 202 yards with an average of 25.3. We have Bullman, halfback of Louisville, scoring 1.7 fantasy points with 7 kick returns for 156 yards, 22.3 average, and 2 punt returns for 12 yards and a 6 yard average. Then we have Corey Edwards, cornerback of Florida Atlantic, with 1.6 fantasy points for 8 kick returns with 143 yards and an average of 17.9, and also 2 punt returns for 17 yards and an average of 8.5. Then we have Jacob Sedera, cornerback of Rutgers, with 1.5 fantasy points for 5 kick returns with 122 yards and an average of 24.4, and 3 punt returns for 32 yards with an average of 10.7. And last but not least, we have tiny wide receiver Debo, or excuse me, I just see WR and I think wide receiver. I don't know if it's meant to be like that, but it's tiny WR Debo, who is a wide receiver for Maryland with 1.5 fantasy points, with 8 kick returns for 148 yards and an average of 18.5.
And congrats to everyone on the ballot. And then we'll get into our picks for players of the week.
Yeah, so for offense, we have congratulations to Ryan Winley, who is a QB for North Carolina.
And then on defense, congrats to Sam Andrews, outside linebacker of Texas.
And then special teams, congratulations to Bobby Johnson, free safety of Georgia.
And congrats to all 3 of you.
Yeah, and not only congratulations to all 3 of them, but obviously, it's not final, but that's our pick for Brotherhood Blitz. But also, congratulations to everybody that made the ballot. This is league wide, so it's a pretty big accomplishment, and it's nice to see your name up there if if you're up there for the voting.
It's also not easy and to get on it too. You have to have a pretty significant performance to make it, as you can tell.
Oh yes, for sure. So after that, we'll go into the games for next week. So we have entered week 5 of the VGL in season 7. Tell me a little bit about
Wild.
yeah, yeah, it's wild. We're already in week 5. I feel like it just started yesterday.
I agree. Yeah, it's 4 weeks already gone by. Wow.
Some wild weeks too.
I agreed. It's been some fun weeks. I know probably one of the more competitive seasons the league's had.
Oh, also, um, I'm I'm over here skipping ahead too. Uh, we got we actually got a suggestion for hit stick of the week last week, thanks to Cameron Duty. So thank you for that. And that hit stick play of the week was in that Florida Atlantic Alabama game. Roll the clip.
Right now, Memphis Reigns is doing a really good job as the field general out there. And it looks like they will go pass, perhaps. They're in shotgun formation. No, it is a keeper. And Vasquez is going to see stars in front of his eyes after that one. Chester Squeakman delivers the boom. That's a hit stick for the Brotherhood Blitz podcast. And Alabama will have to take the 3 points.
What a wild hit that was. That was sophomore cornerback of FEU, Chester Squeakman, with the hit. Um, that's a big hit. And thank you to Cam for suggesting that. And also, shout out to Cam, man. You know, game after game, like we said, last episode, he he makes these games so much more fun to watch. And thanks to Cam also for the shout outs in those games to the Brotherhood Blitz. It's much appreciated.
No, definitely thank you. And Cam, a personal thank you for uh, calling a lot of these games yourself. I know me personally, I haven't been able to get in the booth just with a lot of personal stuff going on with work. But the league appreciates you. I appreciate you for uh, making these games a lot more entertaining to listen to instead of on mute.
Oh yeah, for sure. It gets you more involved uh, when you're watching the game. It gets it more exciting, especially when big plays happen and we hear your enthusiasm in your voice, and it really you really get you know deep into the game when you're watching. It makes it a lot of fun. So now we will get into our games for next week, week 5. Colton, tell me a little bit about this first game and what you expect out of it.
I expect that to be one of the best games of the season, if not the best game of the season, between two of probably the two best teams in the league on paper.
Oh, easily. And earlier we skipped ahead uh, a little bit on accident, but this time I'm gonna skip ahead on purpose and say this is by far game of the week, no questions asked.
Yeah, easily, and it deserves the spotlight as the first game of Week 5.
Yeah, for sure. And it's gonna be a great game. Partly cloudy with a light breeze and 50 degrees at night. Some pretty good weather for some VGL football. And what do you think is gonna come out on top?
Hoping you didn't ask that.
It's a tough one. It's a tough one for sure.
It's literally it's so
It
tough.
it's a toss up, man. Like,
I'm gonna get flamed no matter who I picked either, I think.
yeah, man. It could either be so close or a blowout, and I don't think it's gonna be anything in between.
I'm gonna pick Virginia Tech.
Interesting, because I'm also gonna pick Virginia Tech, and I'm not saying that just because you said it. Um, I've looked so much into this game, and I'm sorry, Swaggy. I know you're probably listening, and you're gonna flame me in league chat for this, but I don't think it's gonna be you know a blowout. Like I said, there's a chance for it to be. Um, who knows, that blowout could be you on top, but I think it's gonna be a very close game, and Virginia Tech does just enough to pull out the win.
It's I'm not gonna be shocked if Miami wins, and there's a bits and pieces of me that wants to pick Miami to win, just because I think they have a little bit better of a team than Virginia Tech does. But Virginia Tech's also undefeated at 4-0. Miami only one loss to currently the number one ranked team. It's We're gonna learn a lot from this game, I'll say that, and what type of teams these are and how actually good they are.
Yes, exactly. You're exactly right, and it's gonna open some eyes, and you know, one of these teams is gonna make a statement, and you know, put the league on notice, and they're gonna say, we're here on top, and we deserve the credit.
Agreed.
Next game on Tuesday. Well, also I will say the upcoming
I
Thanksgiving week. So these games,
Games are the
yeah,
date. Yeah, the dates aren't accurate, so we're not gonna go exactly by dates, just going in the order that games are being played. Uh, but yeah, sorry to kind of cut you off. We got the second game.
yeah, no, you're good. And yeah, second game, we got Louisville versus LSU, and another game that LSU might have a close game. Um, you know, Louisville, coming off of a very very tight game against Hawaii, only losing 28-33, almost coming back and winning that game. They got a chance against LSU, and it's going to be an interesting one.
I I don't think this game is gonna be close. And that's no shot at Louisville. I think the talent difference is quite a big margin between LSU and Louisville. Now, LSU has struggled somewhat this season. They did just come off a pretty good win against Arkansas, but I need to see a little bit more from LSU, especially the defending champions who are currently 2-2. Um, Before I can put much stock. And Louisville is also has kind of taken a step back after the season they had last season, and then going into this season, being in the bottom half of the rankings currently.
Yeah, I agree with you a little bit of there, and the only thing I don't think we agree on is the close game versus not close game. So that's going to be an interesting one to watch, and see how that game plays out. But I do have LSU winning that game.
And I definitely can see your point of it being a close game because I mean the Hawaii Louisville game wasn't supposed to be close either, and it was. But I also pick LSU.
Yeah. So moving on to the next game.
Got Arkansas taking on East Carolina, where both these teams are trying to turn their seasons around.
Yeah, it's a good matchup. Uh, Arkansas losing some very close games to some very good teams. They're down 1-3, and they're looking to string some wins together as this season is midway through, and they're looking to get some wins to get to playoffs. And here they got East Carolina. who just came off of a loss to Texas, who is also 1-3. So it's a very big game for both teams. They both need the win, and yeah, it's gonna be a good matchup.
Yeah, I think this is a must-win team for both Arkansas and ECU. A win here kind of gets you in the right direction to try and make a push towards getting back into playoff contention, while a loss makes it to where you almost have to win out to even have a chance at making the playoffs, especially trying to get those quality wins, especially when it get, you know, come time to playoff rankings coming out. You need those quality wins or even just wins on your record for the committee to try and see if they can make a case for you even being in the playoffs over someone else.
Yeah, for sure, and not only wins, but big wins. And especially like we said in previous episodes and all season long, Arkansas is a good team. It's a very good team, and they're nothing like their schedule show or their record shows of 1-3. Um, so if East Carolina can pull this off, it's a very big win for them, and like you said, it gets them some motivation, and they'll be 2-3 after that, and you know they'll be on the right direction for looking for that playoff spot. But on the other side, you got Arkansas, who is, like I said, a very good team. So you know, and like you said, it's a very big game for both teams, as they both need the win. So, but I do have Arkansas pulling this one out against East Carolina.
Now, I'm also in the same direction with picking Arkansas winning this one. East Carolina, their new team in the league, a very young team. They got some veteran pieces on it, but the way they've looked recently, the passing attack hasn't been that great. Uh, Rushing has looked great at times, and defense, uh, the rushing attack, a little shaky at times. So we'll see if they're able to pull this one out over a good Arkansas team. But like I said, I pick Arkansas as well.
Yeah, East Carolina's, they got the team. Um, they just, they can string some drives with their QB, airing it out. You know, that game can get interesting real quick.
And getting into the next game,
We got,
Georgia versus North Carolina.
man, this is a big one too. You know, you got North Carolina, just coming off an upset, and they're looking to bounce back against a very hungry Georgia team who is, they're not, you know, they're 1-3, but like these other teams with 1-3, their their record doesn't, you know, show how, how their team actually is. And Georgia has fought some good games and have looked pretty good doing it.
I think Georgia is, you know, second best 1-3 team in the league currently in a game that is now a must win. Try and make a case to get into the playoffs with not many more games left on their schedule that they're going to be uh, trying to be able to win. So this is a very huge test to try and get a quality win over, a very good UNC team who's currently 2-2, and which UNC kind of is kind of a must-win game too. You don't want to fall to, 2-3, and then you're trying to claw your way back out and trying to get those wins that you need to keep your spot safe, trying to go into the playoffs.
Yeah, EC or not ECU, North Carolina. Um, you know, yeah, you're exactly right. This is almost a must win, as if they lose to Georgia, that's two upsets in 2 weeks, and that's not going to look good come playoffs when you know if they're one of those towards the edge teams, other teams will have some good cases to overtake them if they lose this game. I think
I am
I'm gonna have to go with man. I do think North Carolina's gonna bounce back here.
I hmm.
I know your
I
hot take
think
is on the line.
yeah, I think North Carolina has a better team than Georgia currently. Give me them Bulldogs.
Interesting. I really wouldn't be surprised if Georgia can somehow pull this game off. They got some homework to do, especially after North Carolina just lost last week in an upset. So you know it's possible for sure, and Georgia definitely has the team to do it. But yeah, I'm gonna have to go with North Carolina here.
Hey, Kate's probably gonna Kate Winley's gonna hate me, but I'm gonna pull for the upset here.
Moving on to the next game, yeah, Mizzou versus Hawaii, and I think this is probably the game that's the most obvious of the week, as Hawaii, although they didn't look very good last week, they looked good, coming out starting, but that game got a little close at the end there, and but I think just the talent difference here is way too big, and I got Hawaii over Mizzou.
Yeah, it sucks because I want Mizzou to find a way to pull one of these out, and this, would be a very great win for them and their first season in the league, trying to get their first win. I just if Hawaii plays like they did last week against Louisville, Mizzou is going to make this close, if not win. But I'm gonna pick Hawaii.
Yeah, I agree. I definitely see that, and yeah, like you said, I really want Mizzou uh, to win one of these games, and Hawaii would be definitely a good one to win. But yeah, we both got Hawaii in that one.
And moving on to the next game, we got Texas versus Michigan, in which we will keep it short, just because we both play for Texas.
Yeah, you got number one Texas versus number 10 Michigan, who I believe both teams stayed the same in rankings uh, last week to this week. And you got Michigan, who I believe they just come off of a win versus Mizzou. Um, Mizzou, or sorry, Michigan, they got a great offense over there. And it's going to be an interesting matchup against the Texas defense. And, you know, Michigan's going to score some points for sure. But I think Texas is going to score a little bit more. So I got Texas.
Yeah, I'm gonna pick Texas as well. I'm not gonna give too much on it. I do think Michigan has a really good offense. They started off kind of rocky to start the season. We'll see if they're able to, upset us, and I wish them the best of luck.
Next game, we got Maryland versus Alabama. Wow, what another great matchup.
Yeah, that one is tough. Because Bama, they this is a game that's going to show did they get lucky or are they actually trying to or figuring something out.
Yeah, I saw in league chat, Maddie said he was trying something different and it worked. So, who knows? Maybe over there in Alabama they found some things that work for them, and um, maybe they'll make the rest of the season interesting.
And then Maryland, was undefeated. going into last week and then losing in a blowout fashion to Miami, they, you know, we're gonna learn some things this game as well. Really, this is the week we're gonna learn a lot, just how good some of these teams are, and a lot of these teams coming up. Uh, do they have what it takes to make a name for themselves?
You're exactly right. But man, it's an interesting one for sure. If Maryland comes in and plays like they did last week, I definitely have Bama winning that game. Um, and on the other end, if Bama comes out like they did last week, I still got Bama. So, if Maryland, can find their way back to how they played the first 3 weeks of the season, and come out, strong, and you know, they should, theoretically pull this win off, but they didn't look very good last week. Um, but I'm actually going to have an upset here, and I'm going to go with Bama.
Did not think you were going that direction at all. Interesting.
I got to keep my
You know,
hot take hot.
I Maryland, they got a good team. They got a good head coach going, into Bama territory. Can they do it? Give me Alabama.
Ooh, wow, wow, what an interesting matchup for sure. Um, yeah, just like you told me, I'm going to tell you the same thing. I did not expect you to pick Bama. Um, but you know they played great. Uh, I'm gonna take it as it wasn't luck. It wasn't a bad sim. I'm gonna take it as that was a great game plan, and I think they found something over there.
Yeah, no, I we're definitely both might be biting our tongues after that game is played, but who knows? I will see if Maryland is able to turn it back around, or is Alabama finally turning the page and making a case for playoffs?
Yeah, for sure. It's another one of those I could see it go both ways games. But next we have Rutgers over, or excuse me, at Florida Atlantic. Um, you know this this one could get interesting.
Definitely could get interesting in a way where, FAU coming off a loss to Alabama and Rutgers getting an upset win over North Carolina in fantastic fashion. Both these teams 2-2. Both these teams also need a win, quality win. Now, Rutgers obviously just got one last week over North Carolina, but if you can strain those quality wins together, it's hard to say that you don't both deserve to be in the playoffs.
Yeah, and if Virginia Tech wasn't facing Miami, I would say this would be game of the week for sure.
I can see
It,
that.
it's a very interesting matchup, and like you said, they both need a win, both sitting at 2-2, and yeah, it's this game's gonna tell us which team is you know the better team for sure, and what team is you know help me out here. What am I looking for?
I have no idea what you're looking for. You're looking for a spoon?
Spoon.
I don't know.
Cut.
I don't know what I was trying to go for there.
Overrated?
I mean, yeah, I mean overrated in a sense, to put it bluntly. Do they deserve where they are ranked? We'll
Yeah, I'll
we'll
say that.
say
Okay.
that.
Where are we entering? We just redoing it?
No, I'm keeping all this. We're keeping this. We ain't cutting it.
Interesting.
Makes for more
You and your damn spoon.
entertaining content. I don't know where I was going with that. But anyways, give me who you got that game.
Oof. I was hoping you would go first.
You want me to go first, or
Um. Oof. Man, I mean, really, it's another. I could see it go both way games.
yeah, I can see that.
Florida is definitely going to have to come in with a totally different game plan than they did against Bama last week for sure.
Agreed. Definitely, we gotta look to get some other people involved.
Oh yeah, for sure. But yeah, them throwing all those screens against Bama is definitely not going to work against Rutgers either.
Nope.
So it's an interesting matchup, and man, mm, I think I'm gonna have to go with just Florida Atlantic here. I think they'll bounce back and uh, win it over Rutgers.
Okay, good take. Good take. Give me them Scarlet Knights.
Yep, I felt that coming.
I'm for the upsets again this week. I'm trying to make our lives tough on the committee.
Man, yeah. I mean, it's gonna be a great game. I'm definitely looking forward to that one for sure. But like we said
Yes, sir.
earlier, it says it's on Thursday, but obviously it's gonna be changed. So who knows when that game's gonna be live? Waiting on Gates to let us know for that. But yeah, definitely count me in to be in chat on that game.
Yeah, obviously this is going to go out probably before or obviously after the schedule is announced and when games are going to be, but uh it's going to be an interesting week. I picked three teams to upset. Probably going to well I'll be right or we'll be wrong in all three. Who knows? And that's the fun thing about doing this.
Yeah, for sure. I have fun, doing this with you, and I look forward to it every week, and I hope y'all as viewers look forward to these every week, as we have got some kind words in our DMs, and it's very much appreciated. It's something we're loving doing, and we hope to keep doing it.
Yeah, we appreciate those that do take the time out of their day to listen over on YouTube. And we'll also note that uh, we don't do this for views. We don't do this to get big, make money. We do this just for content for the league, and as it's something that helps and gives people that don't want to go scrolling through and looking at all the data or looking and to try and find, okay, how's this team doing? How's this team doing? We kind of give a little bit of everything as much as we can with the time that we can in a way that is entertaining and easier to understand.
Yeah, for sure. Um, yeah, like you said, it's definitely not for views. So um, don't think we're gonna get discouraged if we don't get as many views as
We did a week, the first episode. First
Yeah,
episode we had like 50 to 60, and this past episode at one point we had 9. I mean, it views that don't matter.
yeah.
Many we get is
We know some of those nine or all of those nine really enjoy listening to it, and that's all that matters to us.
heck, we can have just one person listen and I would still be fine.
Yeah, it's definitely something we just love doing too.
Agreed.
But yeah, uh, that being said, well, we kind of kind of jumped the gun earlier. Already said it, but yeah, the game of the week for sure is going to be Virginia Tech versus Miami, and then my sleeper game of the week is going to be that Rutgers versus Florida Atlantic.
I also have that as my sleeper game. You can make a case for Georgia, North Carolina, but I think that Rutgers FAU game is going to be a good one.
Yeah, for sure.
And as we wrap up this episode, I actually have a little surprise, little segment, a quick little segment here for my brother that he did not know about.
Oh,
We're going to do a little bit of a segment called Fact or Cap.
uh-oh.
I'm gonna give you three. We will do three little questions, and you're gonna tell me is it fact or cap.
Oh shit.
Putting you on the spot, but I wanted to do a special little segment I thought of probably like 10 minutes ago.
During the episode.
Yeah, during the episode, I thought of it.
All
So
right, what you got?
we're gonna start with is East Carolina a playoff contender or not? Fact or cap?
Cap.
Okay, kind of go dive somewhat into it.
Yeah, given the circumstance, I don't want to dive too much into it, but yeah, them having a new head coach, who knows? It might be the best thing for them, and they come out swinging the rest of the season. But uh, yeah, with their first game with the new head coach is against Arkansas, and I don't think they're going to win that game, and I think it's just going to funnel from there.
Okay. And we're going to go into the second question. Will Mizzou win a game this season? Factor cap.
Ooh, am I allowed to look at their schedule?
Yeah, you can look at their schedule.
All right, let me see. Let's see. They got okay, week 5, obviously Hawaii. I don't think they'll win. Um, week 6, they got Louisville. Ooh, it's a good one. They got a chance there. They got LSU in week 7, Texas in week 8, and Arkansas in week 9. Wow, what a tough schedule. Oof, man, you're really putting me on the spot here.
Yep.
I'm gonna have to. I'm gonna have to go with they're gonna. I'm gonna go with fact.
So you think they're beating Louisville then?
Yeah, yeah. I'm glad you
Okay.
picked up on
I
picked
I
up on what
I
game.
pick. Yeah, that is the only game I could see them having a chance at really winning.
Yeah.
Okay, interesting. And we'll go with the last one before we close out this episode. Drum roll. Is Alabama going to win over or under 5 games? So basically,
Hmm.
yeah, 5 games because they're 1-3 currently. So 5 is still not still potentially. Technically, they'd have to win out to win 5. We'll go 3 because I think 5 is a little much.
So the rest of the season, 3
Yes, over or under 3 wins on the season.
over under 2.5 or over under 3.5.
3.5.
So 3 being the under.
What?
Did you not
Oh,
think this through?
uh, over under 3 wins.
But what if it is 3 wins?
Then that's considered over.
Okay, so 2.5 over under.
Sure. Sure.
Goober. Um,
Also
man,
putting you on the spot for that question.
yeah. Looking at the schedule here. Let's see. We got Maryland, which I think they'll win. So that's one. BT, I don't think they'll pull that one off. There's UNC. Then we got Rutgers. Oh man, man, oh man, oh man. Um, I'm gonna have to go with over, but I think it's just over.
Okay. I appreciate you giving me your take on those questions. And we are going to close this episode out. Kind of leave a little bit of a cliffhanger, kind of get some thoughts rolling around people's heads that are listening, and as well as my brothers who was not expecting this. We appreciate everyone for tuning in and listening to the Brotherhood Blitz podcast here over on YouTube. We are halfway through the season as we get closer to the end of season 7 and into season 7 playoffs. What will we learn this week? Who knows? Find out next week over here on the Brotherhood Blitz.